What's going on, everybody? I got Charlie Baldy back with me. We are here to discuss the Jamal Adams trade. Yesterday, the Jets traded away former first-round pick Jamal Adams for a 2021 first-round pick, a third-round pick, a 2022 first-round pick, as well as safety Bradley McDougald. Charlie, initial thoughts?
If Joe Douglas was in front of me right now, I would kiss his big, bold, beautiful head. What a legend. You just trade away a player that did not want to be with the organization long term, cried every day on social media like a 14-year-old girl, and Joe Douglas came away with not one, but 2 first-round picks plus. Excellent job, phenomenal job. You don't have to pay Adams now $20 million a year to be a safety. Excellent work by Joe Douglas.
All right, a few things where you're wrong, but I'll give you this. If you don't want Jamal Adams anymore because he was complaining about the front office, he was complaining about Adam Gase, that he didn't want to be with the rebuilding team, he wanted to be a title team. That's totally fine. My problem is we have third-year quarterback Sam Darnold, who again has nothing to work with. And I posted, before I get into that, I posted a previous video about the Jets past 12 first-round picks. It's bust after bust after bust. Again, these are all top 10 picks, because we know Jets basically go 5-11 almost every single year. They're top 10 picks, and they're still coming away with busts. And the few that they do hit on, they end up trading away. So why now? And people say Joe Douglas is the answer. Maybe he is. And if he is, you know what? I'll say I'm wrong. But why am I to believe that – let's be realistic. Hypothetically speaking, the Seahawks, these 2 first-round picks, they'll be in the overall 20th range to 25th range, correct? We probably agree on that. So why am I to believe that the Jets are going to hit on those picks with a 20 to 25th overall pick when they can't even hit on a top 10 pick?
Well, basically it's because you got to look at it like this. Building a winning team starts in the front office, and people forget that there's no cap when it comes to hiring front office people. So you need to put the right guys in place. Now, you are right where the Jets have a terrible job drafting and whatnot, but if Jamal Adams didn't want to be here, you were kind of stuck where you had to trade him, and the longer you held on to him, his trade value diminishes more and more. So Joe Douglas struck at the right time, and I understand you want to build a team around Sam, but the team was, they finished 7-9 last year, but that was only because they played teams that are worse than them. Yeah. So this year, I've even said multiple times, they might just go 4-12 because of how tough their schedule is. But I'm not worried about that because Joe Douglas has to build it his way. And you can't just be dishing out these contracts because when you're a rebuilding team, giving out these long-term deals are going to restrict you from making other moves. So now think about it. The Jets have 2 first-round picks for the next 2 years. Yeah. Phenomenal. Now they're going to have almost $100 million in cap space. That's very enticing, especially if Adam Gase gets fired, which we all hope he does because the guy stinks. So think about what the Jets can do now. If they go 4-12, they can fire Adam Gase, right? You bring in a guy like Bieniemy or somebody. You sign a couple of free agents, and now you're cooking. Because now you have the cap space to go out and fill all the holes that the Jets need. Brandon, how many times have you said to me, the Jets need a number 1 corner, they need a number 1 wide receiver, they need an edge guy, they need an outside linebacker, now they need a safety. So if you were going to go ahead and pay Jamal Adams $20 million a year, between him and Mosley, that's already $37 million in cap space. You still need your edge rusher, and edge rushers are not cheap. So now you're investing almost $60 million into 3 players on defense.
I'm not sure. Yeah, here's the thing. If you're saying you don't want to pay Jamal Adams, I'm with you. I'm not disagreeing with that. If you want to get rid of him, this is a negative situation that the Jets could have turned into a positive situation, and they failed like they always do. Sam Darnold needs a number 1 wide receiver. The best safety in the NFL in Jamal Adams. He solidified himself as clearly the best box safety in the NFL. This is a perfect opportunity to send him to a team and get in return a true number 1 wide receiver. That is the only way I would have dealt him. You didn't have to pay him when the time comes. If then he wants to get traded, or honestly you trade him that offseason, something like that, I'll wait till then. But I want a number 1 wide receiver in return. There was rumors that the Cowboys were interested in Jamal Adams, or Jamal Adams wanted to go to the Cowboys because that's his hometown team. Okay, give me CeeDee Lamb CeeDee Lamb, again, he's a rookie. He has not played an NFL game, but he has promised that he's going to be a true number one wide receiver in this league. The Jets pulled that off, I would be thrilled right now. DeAndre Hopkins, he already got traded before this happened. But again, I mean, Bill O'Brien basically handed the Cardinals DeAndre Hopkins. But my thing is, this opportunity to help your young quarterback who has a terrible coach, which that's the biggest disaster right now. The offensive line is terrible. He has no receiver. So how do you expect this kid to succeed? And they told me coming out of the 2018 draft, he's the next Joe Namath. He's going to be our guy for the next 15 years. And now he has nothing to work with, which my biggest worry in all this is next year, after his fourth year, they're just going to be like, oh, he's not succeeding. We got to move on and rebuild again. Or if they do decide to keep him, they're just going to be in rebuilding mode. I just do not trust the Jets to hit on these late first-round picks, which they are. The trade looks sexy, I'd say, on paper, given that they're first-round picks and they have 2 first-round picks for the next 2 seasons. But do I think they're going to capitalize on them? No, I don't. And when that happens, I'll admit I'm wrong. But until then, I'm not buying it.
All right, so now let me ask you a hypothetical question. If the Jets would have moved Adams to the Cowboys, would you have taken Gallup or Lamb and, let's say, a pick, or would you have taken the guy Lyle Collins and a pick?
No, Gallup and a Lamb. Are you kidding me? Absolutely.
You see, that's the problem. You got it. They have to build that line first. Sam's not going to do anything until that line is fixed.
I mean, they just drafted Beckham in the first round. I mean, it's better, but he still needs a number one target. I mean, but don't get me wrong. I mean, they're both huge issues. No matter which way you want to target. But if you have a playmaker on the outside, I think that would build this conference tremendously. Even if the offensive line is good, he still has no one to throw to. Right now, the Jets have 3 number 3 wide receivers. I think Jamison Crowder's a 3. I think Rashard Perriman's probably a 3 in reality. He was in Tampa Bay. And Denzel Mims is a rookie. So I'm not saying I don't know anything about him yet until he proves himself. But
well, I think the way you got to look at it as you could always have, these big, high-profile receivers, but if you have no time in the pocket, your wide receivers are not going to get open. I mean, you can go out there and have, Hopkins, Thomas, and Green lined up on the outside, but if your offensive line is giving up sacks within 2-3 seconds, Sam's not going to get the ball for them. So I think it's smarter to go the route of building the offensive line. Then you worry about the wide receivers. And wide receivers, you're always going to be able to find in free agency.
Speaking of free agency, next year's draft class is pretty loaded. And
receiver-wise, too.
I'll give you this. In next year's draft class, not paying Jamal Adams, there's a ton of cap space now. Some notable free agents. One of them is Adrian Green, which I wanted the Jets to actually attack in the trade. He was hurt last year, but he's a bona fide number 1 wide receiver in this league. He's had previous 1,000-yard seasons. That's another guy I wanted the Jets to trade for Jamal Adams, but he's a free agent next year. T.Y. Hilton, again, another bona fide wide receiver. Chris Godwin, that would be a great option. I believe Allen Robinson and Keenan Allen. So there are 5 big names out there next season, which would help Sam tremendously. I would have loved to get some now because the thing is, I understand your theory of, want to build through the offensive line first, but he needs confidence, and he needs a guy he could trust to throw to. That's the problem right now. It's 3 years in a row with not one number 1 wide receiver. He has no one he could trust and say when he's in trouble, he has this wide receiver to rely on in terms of a true number 1. Because right now he's got 3 number 30s, and that's not good.
Well, he did go with Crowder last year. I think Crowder had almost 100 catches. I mean, that could be wrong, but he had a good relationship with him. So I think it's more of – I think Sam likes to throw to a slot guy more than anything. So if they can just go out there and just get a guy who can play under that will open up, down the field, I think that would be the biggest need in case you can't strengthen the offensive line right out of the gate. And like you just said, there's big profile free agents, wide receivers coming out next year, and the draft class is so loaded. You guys like Justin Ross, Jamar Chase. So, they could use now these picks to go and get a wide receiver or even trade up in the draft to go get a wide receiver because now they have the ammo on draft day. And also now what you can also do is instead of reaching for, now the problem they went into last year was, are they going to draft an offensive lineman or a wide receiver? Now in this draft coming up, you don't have to make that decision anymore because you got the 2 first-round picks. So you can either take your offensive lineman if they just have a top 10 pick, right, and then get your wide receiver down in the 20s. And plenty of guys have been taken later in the draft that have turned out to be stars. So, I just think this draft is a home run. And if Joe Douglas wants to get really fleeky and go all out, there's an edge rusher down in Jacksonville that wants out, and now Joe Douglas has the picks to go get him.
I see that, and I understand their mentality moving forward in terms of the draft. Again, like I said before, I just don't trust the Jets front office. People love Joe Douglas, but until I see it, I'll believe it. I can't have the confidence. And I made a video already, like I said before. I made a video Jets' previous first-round picks. It's as bad as they come. The Jets have first-round picks who last in the NFL, not with the Jets, the NFL for 3 to 4 seasons, and are not even starting sometimes. So for me to believe that they're going to hit on these first-round picks, I don't know. I just wanted someone who's established a all-pro wide receiver in the NFL to help Sam Darnold's confidence. Because even if they do go the wide receiver route next year, who says that he's going to be an immediate number one right when he gets out of college, which is probably not likely. The wide receivers have to develop as well, which Sam Darnold, again, that's his 4th year. Then he's going to look for the extension. The time's ticking. That's my problem. I want this year to be a building year for Sam Darnold, have something to work with, so at least he's given an opportunity to be successful, because as we speak right now, he's set up for failure.
Well, yeah, but I don't think you could really fault them for moving Adams for what the return was. It was a really good return, and I don't know. People were saying that they wanted Michael Gallup from the Cowboys. He doesn't really impress me. I mean, he's a good receiver, but he's not like a number one. He's more like a borderline 2-3. And I know he had 1,000 yards receiving, but he was a very streaky receiver. And you also forget he was also playing opposite Amari Cooper. So how many times do you think coverage focused on Cooper and left Gallup wide open? So I think what Douglas had offered to him, I think he took the best field that he could have gotten. I would take 2 number ones plus any day of the week. And I just think it's a home run.
Hey, well, only time to tell, but I want to thank you again for joining me. Please let me know in the comment section below. Did the Jets win this trade? Did the Seahawks win this trade? But again, Charlie, thanks for joining me. Always.
No problem, pal. Thank you for having me.